총소리 들으셨어요? He heard the sounds of the guns, shots that were. There were many shots were fired.
Goosebumps.
Wow.
The bitter.
It was a machine gun.
This video is sponsored by Surfshark.
Park Chung-hee, who ruled the country for more than 18 years, is dead. The new government announced that President Park was killed by a shot fired accidentally by the head of South Korea's Central Intelligence Agency.
This event has changed the course of Korea's history. And I can tell you, it wasn't an accident. And the people in the Vatican's embassy might have been the only hearing witness. You would expect some memorial, right? Or...
It is Bart and Jacco time. We're going to a very tiny neighborhood called Gungjeong-dong.
Gungjeong-dong, yes.
It's so tiny, I wanted to say size doesn't matter. Because this tiny neighborhood has a great story.
One by one, I am exploring all of Seoul's 467 neighborhoods. And it's time for Dong 35, the tiny Gungjeong-dong. It's really small. It takes only 4 minutes to walk from one end to the other.
And it's called Gungjeong-dong because on one side of the street we have the 7 shrines to the 7 concubines, the Chilgung. Jong means well, and there were some wells around here.
But let's start north, a little outside the Dong's boundary, right here.
And we're going to start with the failed attempt to assassinate President Park Chung-hee in January 1968. Kim Il-sung sent 31 North Korean commandos across the border dressed as South Korean soldiers, and they came all the way down from Paju down to very, very close to the Blue House. If you cross the street, if you look across the street, the Blue House compound is just over, beyond those trees, just over that hill. So we're really close to where the president lived at that time. And this is the site where a South Korean policeman was working at a sort of a local police station, and he encountered these men. He got suspicious, and that's when they drew their guns and they killed him. So he was one of the South Koreans who were killed by the North Korean commandos.
Right here.
Pretty much right here.
Here, look at this. For this event, there's a storyboard and even a memorial plaque. Why this strikes me will become clear in a minute.
One man was captured alive, Kim Shin-jo. He's still alive to this day.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit nervous before I came here.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about Park Chung-hee.
Right.
And he is one of the most controversial figures in South Korea, because there's always somebody who will be offended.
That's right.
With whatever you say about him.
Some people love him and some people hate him. He certainly was a very, very important figure in Korean history.
Actually, really nice view here over
It's
the mountain.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Behind us, we have, this is the flag of the Vatican, and this is the embassy of the papal nuncio. Papal nuncio means the ambassador of the Pope, and so he's been here, I mean not the same one obviously, but the embassy has been here for decades, located right next to the Blue House, and right behind where we're going to end up at the end of this tour to see where Park Chung-hee was killed. Oh gosh, my reading of Latin is bad. Nunciatura Apostolica, the Apostolic Nuncio. So this is the embassy of the Vatican here.
Probably wouldn't mind if I do this.
Oh dear.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. 옛날에 교황이 방한하셨을 때 여기서 묵으셨죠? 네네. As I said, the Pope slept here. 세 번요?
혹시 많았어요? 아 그래요?
Wow.
어떻나요?
Like meeting a father.
Like meeting a father. 아버지처럼. 직업이 너무 좋습니다.
Before this man shares his unbelievable experience with President Park Chung-hee's assassination, let me introduce today's sponsor,
Surfshark VPN.
From day one, I entered South Korea as a Dutchie. I suddenly couldn't watch many Dutch movies on Netflix anymore. One day, my Dutch friend said, "Bart, you should watch The Marathon, a new Dutch movie." And I realized I couldn't. But luckily, Surfshark allowed me to travel to the lowlands virtually and watch it. Since I got more addicted to K-dramas like The Glory these days, Surfshark also enables me to keep watching Korean stuff when visiting my family in the Netherlands. VPN is like your own pocket country. I bet the Pope used it when he was in Korea. The same goes for Dutch news videos I can only watch with Surfshark VPN. And I'm a sucker for news. As a freelancer, I work a lot of cafes, tap into their public Wi-Fi and worry the hell that somebody will steal my information. If I turn on Surfshark, all data is protected. So you can see why I like Surfshark. Right now, if you sign up using my code, iGoBart, you get 83% off. Plus, 3 extra months for free. The link is in the description below.
Do you know that this area?
Yeah, this is the
Park Chung-hee
대통령 암살된 곳.
네.
표지판이 없는데
예.
그렇게
저쪽.
저쪽에 그때도 여기서 근무하셨어요?
그렇죠. 제가 54년 됐어요. I work here.
He was here that day.
years old.
Oh wow.
총소리 들으셨어요?
그렇죠.
He heard the sounds of the guns shots that were. There were many shots were fired.
Goosebumps.
Wow.
The mitrailleuse.
It was a machine gun.
machine guns.
Wow.
그 소리 들었을 때 뭐 하셨어요?
여기는 특별한 장소였죠. 그래서 말씀대로 아마 자기들 연습하는 줄 알았어요.
He thought they were practicing.
Every 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, here's some exercise.
Shooting practice, target practice.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, there's goosebumps, right?
Wow,
Yeah.
that- respect.
Yeah.
Wow.
I used to know the meaning of this part.
Before getting to where Park Chung-hee was killed, we must see the beautiful 7 shrines to 7 concubines.
Every king in the Joseon dynasty had one queen, and most of the time they would have several concubines. Now, a concubine was like a secondary status wife. So the first woman he would marry would usually be the queen, and she would be also enshrined with him. So there's a big shrine for all the kings. I don't know if you've been there yet. It's
Jongmyo.
called Jongmyo. The queens are also enshrined there. But what they have here is a shrine for the secondary status wives, the concubines, who were often the actual biological mothers of kings.
But they were not allowed to be enshrined in the Jongmyo shrine.
Because they weren't queen status, they were concubine status. So King Yongjo, he had this shrine built here for his mother, who was a concubine. And then later on, other shrines came here, and then during the Japanese colonial times in the 1920s, they consolidated many shrines that were scattered around Seoul in one place, and that's how it came to be called Chilgung, 7 shrines to 7 concubines.
Probably a really unknown place to many people.
And there's a good reason for that. Because Chilgung is right next to, I mean, you can see, if you turn around, behind us is part of Cheongwadae, the Blue House complex. So because of its proximity to the Blue House, for many years, you couldn't just walk in here. You had to visit Chilgung as part of a Blue House tour. Now that President Yoon has moved to Yongsan, now Chilgung is open again, and anybody can walk in here.
So you might disagree that the president moved to a different place, but for tourism, for the tourists,
That's right.
a lot of amazing places open up. 궁금해요. 이거 뭔지 몰라요. 네.
You speak Korean very well.
He speaks 10 times better than me.
계단이에요, 계단.
계단일까요? 또 뭘까요?
1등, 2등, 상,
Olympics.
Olympics.
How can visitors visit here?
This is where you get on the horse.
Yes.
So it is like a kedan. It's like a stairs
like
to
a
get up
small
the horse.
stairs. Yeah.
Now the moment I've been waiting for. The location where Park Chung-hee was killed in one of the KCIA safe houses.
And the KCIA safe house, it turns out, was right next to the presidential palace. So over there on the right, we see the Blue House compound, the massive Blue House compound where President Park Chung-hee lived. On the left, we see a park. Now it's a park, but then in 1979, it was a walled property, and inside it was not one safe house, but maybe 6. That is where Park Chung-hee was killed by the head of his KCIA. When Kim Jong-sam was president, he decided, let's get rid of this KCIA safe house and return it to the people in the form of a park, and now it's a park. Bye.
Bye.
And so it actually says that the safe house was demolished, but I don't see any mention in here that this is where Park Chung-hee was killed. I find it very interesting that it's avoided, that it's kind of described in a very vague way, right?
Yeah.
So we know there was a safe house. We know that people want to learn from history, but the history isn't mentioned here specifically. That's fascinating.
We've searched the entire park for a sign, a plaque, or any information on what has happened here, but we found none. I don't understand this. Shouldn't there at least be something for such an important historical
I'm
event?
sure that it's about not talking about shameful periods of history. I mean, the fact that President Park was assassinated not by North Korean, if he had been killed by North Korean agents, this would be a shrine, there would be a marker and a story about that. But the fact that he was killed not by North Korean agents, but not by Japanese officials or anybody else, but by internal enemies in his own administration, just less than 100 meters from where the North Koreans came trying to kill him at the Blue House 11 years earlier, I think there's some shame in that. 간판이 없는데 어떻게 알 수 있어요? 그 암살이 여기서 생겼던 일이.
그거는 좋은 일이 아니라 가지고
네.
여기다가 공개를 안 하시더라고요. 그건 좋은 일이 아니라 가지고
네.
잘 안 알려져요.
위쪽에 가시면 그 김신조 일당이
예.
여기까지 내려왔다는
예.
그런 표시판이 있어요. 그것도 안 좋은 일인데
예.
그 표시판이 있는데
예.
여기서는 박정희 대통령님이 여기서 암살당한 거 그런 표시판이 없어요. 둘 다 안 좋은 일인데
둘 다 안 좋은 일인데
네.
김신조 왕건은 북한 쪽에서 우리를 침범하러 왔다 나쁜 쪽으로 생각해서 그건 밝혔고
야.
국내 사건은
아하.
그거 밝혀봐야 남에게 치수거리가 되니까 안 밝히는 거야.
국내
예, 그 우리 국내에서 일어난 거니까
네네네.
별로 그건 관심 그러니까 뭐 좋은 일이 아니까 그걸 안 밝히는 거지. 나쁜 사건이라 가지고
네.
잘 저게 안 얘기를 안 해요.
일부러 얘기 안 하는 거죠.
다 묻어버리는 거지 그건 이제.
One last thing to show you.
I was looking at it.
So this is a tree planted by President Kim Dae-jung and his wife, Lee Hee-ho, in April 1999. So we have a plaque for that, but as he said, he exactly reinforced what I said. It's a negative thing, it's an internal domestic thing, right? He was shot by his own people, so we don't talk about that, we don't make it a place of pilgrimage or anything. Had he been shot by the North Koreans, yes, of course, that would have been a big deal.
It was indeed a tiny neighborhood, but the stories were once again incredible. Gungjeong-dong is simply the place where Park Chung-hee was assassinated. Welcome to my dong.
Once again, thank you, Jacco, and our hands are freezing. Right?
Yes, my pleasure, Bart.
See you in the next video. Maybe let's do another dong, probably sometime in the future.
Yes. How do?
하루. 안녕하세요.
여쭤보겠습니다. 여기 공원에서는 옛날에 무슨 사건이 있었는가요?
우리도 이제 방금 와갖고 몰라요.
아 그래요?